Well, certainly, this is why concerned stakeholders have repeatedly protested against the state of Nigerian prisons, and that rather than being out of the prisons a reformed person, many offenders who are sent to the prisons usually come out hardened and subsequently become repeat offenders.
And one of the arguments is that it has become almost impossible to reform prisoners to be better than they were before imprisonment, when poor prison conditions make it almost impossible to equip them with new skills or even improve on the old ones. And despite the achievements of the Nigerian Prison Service, its mandate from the Prison Act of 1972 was more centered on punishment rather than behavioral orientation.
Well, of course, stakeholders, again, in the Nigerian criminal justice administration system have been applauding the signing into law of the 11-year-old Nigerian Correctional Service Bill. Of course, it was signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari. An expectation, of course, stakeholders expect that the new act will live up to its name and deliver on its mandate of reforming and rehabilitating errant members of society who are sent there for correction.
And in a direct response to the long-standing overcrowded prisons issue, the law in its section 12 sub 8 empowers the state of the controller of correctional service to reject intake of additional inmates where the facility under his watch is filled to capacity. In light of this, what happens to rejected prisoners? Where will the inmates be taken to? Will such an inmate be released, particularly where he or she is alleged to have committed very heinous crimes?
Well, Rhoda, these are some of the issues that people talk about with regard to congestion in prisons, and the Nigerian Correctional Service Law has also made a strong case for the use of non-custodial sentencing for minor offenders, which means that the court can order the payment of a fine, give a restrictive order as a sentence to a person who's been found guilty instead of sending them to already overcrowded jailhouses.
So how realistic is this particular provision of the Correctional Service Law, though? Are more prisons going to be built to accommodate all of its provisions, particularly as almost all the correctional service centers in the country have overshot their normal capacities?
Well, the new act also accommodates the provision of separate facilities, as it were, for female inmates in every state. This is against the old practice of having a wing carved out for women in a general facility. But one question that arises is, where will the funding for these new facilities come from?
And I'm sure many Nigerians are hoping that as the signing of the Correctional Service Act repeals the Prison Act and changes the name from Nigeria Prison Service to Nigerian Correctional Service, there may be something more beyond the name. We'll find out in the course of our discussion this morning.
It's on that note, we'd like to welcome you to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. It's the 11th day of September. It's our pleasure to have you on the program. My name is Kingsley Osadolo. As always, we are live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority.
And I'm Rhoda Anonam. I join Kingsley in welcoming you to today's edition of the program. As always, we shall bring to you our complimentary segments of the program, and that would include the newspaper review. We have business, sports, foreign, entertainment news. But as always, the news comes first, and Comfort Amadu is set to deliver the news this morning. Comfort, good morning. It's good to see you.
Good morning, Rhoda and Kingsley. Good morning, our journeys. And here's the morning news. Remnants of the Boko Haram insurgents in the northeastern region of the country are bandits and will be treated as such by the federal government. President Muhammadu Buhari stated this while receiving an audience of visiting president of the International Committee of the Red Cross, Peter Mora.
Very much impressed and satisfied by the positive response of President Buhari, by the appreciation for what the Red Cross does here in Nigeria, and also to feel his strong support for the mandate and work that the International Red Cross as a neutral and impartial humanitarian organization does.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has described as unfortunate, disturbing and counterproductive politicization of the nation's security situation. This was while exchanging views with a group of promoters of the proposed African Security Leadership Summit. Terrorism, militancy and electoral violence are among major security challenges confronting most African countries. The need to curb these threats that have the tendency of retarding socioeconomic development in Nigeria necessitated the summit jointly organized by the Nigerian Army and New Partnership for Africans Development, NEPAD.
Emanating from terrorism, insurgency and electoral violence negate the desire of African Union Agenda 2063, which expects Africa to be a continent where democratic values, gender equality, justice, and rule of law are institutionalized.
The incidents, responses, and initiatives of various agencies involved in tackling the challenges require understanding by all stakeholders for the country to move forward.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has described as fulfilling and promising the National Livestock Transformation Plan for the attainment of sustainable peace and development. This is when the Vice President was flagging off the plan in Yola, Adamawa State.
The introduction of the National Livestock Transformation Plan is a win-win for the state and its people. The plan will provide a basis for peaceful coexistence and jobs for many, and a mechanism for resolving disputes of various kinds.
The United Kingdom has restated that the debate on Brexit will not take a toll on relations with Nigeria, but will rather enhance existing ties. British Deputy High Commissioner to Nigeria, Gil Atkinson, said this during a meeting with a secretary to the government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, in Abuja.
Of Brexit is the UK looking globally and the UK looking beyond Europe for our friends. So for Nigeria, you are a friend that we have had for a long time and an important friend. So I see Brexit as something which will strengthen our relationship.
The 61st meeting of the United Nations World Tourism Organization's Commission for Africa, hosted by Nigeria in July 2018, got a resounding applause from member countries attending the 23rd General Assembly, which is underway in Russia.
Most of African colleagues attended the Commission meeting. So that shows that we within ourselves, we go and travel to different countries and very supportive. So Abuja was a successful meeting, and the declaration today, I have narrated here, the 10 points were all discussed in Abuja. So that declaration in Abuja was very crucial for the roadmap for Africa 2030.
Our hosting of our CAF in 2018 went a long way in debunking.
Aregbesola was speaking at a banquet organized in his honor by the Osun State government. Femi Fariogo was there.
Roll call was inexhaustible as people across the country, especially sons and daughters of Osun State, converged for a double celebration, which is the appointment of Rauf Aregbesola as the Minister of Interior of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the victory of Governor Gboyega Oyetola at the Supreme Court. The Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, is thankful to the President for giving him the honor to serve the nation, which he promised to do with utmost dedication. He appreciated the national leaders of APC, including Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Chief Bisi Akande, and Pa Ayo Fasomi for the role played in his emergence as a minister. He described the banquet as motivating and encouraging, saying it is also a challenge for him and the governor to do more. Aregbesola added that the party's victory at the July 5 Supreme Court judgment declaring Governor Gboyega Oyetola as the duly elected governor was divine and the victory was for the APC as a whole. He acknowledged that, though the road to the victory was rough, APC came out victorious with the support of the good people of Osun. The Minister of Interior, however, asked the people not to relent in their support for APC government and prayer for him to succeed.
I thank God and the people God used for my emergence. I also thank the people of Osun State for their support. Please do not forget me, as I am now serving a greater calling and will need your prayers at all times.
Osun State Governor Gboyega Oyetola, who described his predecessor as the architect of modern Osun, also sees a Supreme Court victory as a blessing to the state, which is worth celebrating.
And you see the mood of the state. We are very happy to see what is happening. Also, also we continue to develop. Also, look forward to being recognized in the community of states and nations. That strive is continuing. These areas of continuity. Don't forget I was part of his administration. I've been the chief of staff for 8 years. So it's actually a continuity of what we have been doing. That is not difficult for me to continue from where we come. Education, that the movement will continue. They've already seen what we are doing in years of infrastructure, education, security. So we are not stopping.
Party leaders and other eminent sons and daughters of Osun State described the appointment of Rauf Aregbesola as a blessing to the state, with a firm belief in his ability to transform the ministry. In Oshogbo, Femi Afariogun.
We wish the minister all the best as he moves the ministry into the next level. Now, Jigawa State is 28 years old. As such, members of the Jigawa Young Professional Forum, as well as sons and daughters of the state, converge on Abuja to commemorate the state's anniversary. Salihu Abdullahi was at the forum that provides opportunity for stakeholders to brainstorm and share quality ideas on how to match words with action and uphold the state as pride of the nation. Take a look.
August 27, 1991 would have come and gone, but the events of that day still remain fresh in the minds of the people of Jigawa State. Jigawa State, known as the New World, was created alongside 8 others by the then military president, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. 28 years down the ladder, the Jigawa Young Professionals Forum, as part of activities to commemorate the creation of the state, put together this get-together where sons and daughters of the state, irrespective of their political and cultural differences, converged on Abuja. It was indeed an avenue where old memories were shared and new ideas showcased in order to sustain the developmental stride in the state.
Jigawa State is unique and different for 3 reasons. 1, the peaceful nature of the state. 2, the cooperation and support of both the elders and the young in Jigawa State. 3, and most importantly, is the stability of governance.
We have a dream of having a state that is economically viable, very secured, and that is all inclusive, and the social development of our people.
Jigawa was one of the poorest state when it was created, but today Jigawa is growing and we are coming up. You can now testify. Look at us, beautiful people, beautiful officers, senior officers in both public and private sectors, you know, in different areas of specialization.
What gladdens my heart about Jigawa State in general is the willingness of our people to improve our lives by ourselves and to make sure that we contribute our own quota to the society. I'm so impressed that the young professionals of Jigawa State decided to, set up something like this.
Major issues considered important to drive their passion of upholding social values in Jigawa State include the need to pay critical attention to education, health, and agriculture.
We are developing a robust program for teachers enhancement so that we can improve on the teacher quality over the age. It's a program that will take 10, 12 years to mature. It's a political risk, but we have to do it. We have to start from the basic. You will not see the result tomorrow. You will not see the result in 4 years that I will have. The result will start coming at the end of the term of whoever was succeeding.
The kind of governance we have now, I'm sure Jigawa State is going to be robust. It's going to be the envious of other states of the country.
And yes, the role of women is critical in the development of Jigawa State because we are like the mothers, the sisters, the daughters of the soil, as well as like we can say we are one of the major stakeholders.
The potentials are there, both human and material. It's just the right political leadership and the right elite consensus to harvest these potentials into greatness. And I think that's what meetings like this, non-partisan, across party lines, are meant to achieve.
Indeed, the people of Jigawa are appreciative of its leaders from creation to date and strongly believe that the state's abundant natural and human resources, when fully harnessed, could help positively transform the lives of the people across the 27 local government areas of the state.
There is no way a nation can develop if you don't produce the kinds of people that are going to take over from you. And what these young gentlemen are preparing for the state, it is very, very eloquent, it is very good, and we are giving them encouragement, and we are trying our best.
So that's why we go back to the root, looking at the history we have, looking at the creation of the state. We went through various emirates we made a lot of consultations, and we have gone through so many processes to be able to bring together, and we have already set the ball rolling.
We need to work together as a team, because if we don't unite, there is no way we can move forward. And we need to reach out. Those of us that are in higher places, we can reach out to those that need to be assisted. And education is a key point.
Team, we are working for the state, and we will continue to work for the state, and the state will continue to develop and develop and develop.
You can see one of the most peaceful states in Nigeria is Jigawa State. We've not had any major incident of any major security breaches in the state. So kudos to all those who have ruled the state, from the military at the beginning to the political leadership.
Distinguished sons and daughters of the state were recognized and honored at the event.
We congratulate Jigawa State at 28 years. Moving on now to outside the shores of Nigeria, the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo 2019 is an annual series of military tattoos performed by British Armed Forces, Commonwealth and international military bands and artistic performance teams on Esplanade of Edinburgh Castle in the capital of Scotland. Guess what? You can always bet your last on Nigeria, who is making its first outing at the event. Anthony Forsen gives us the full gist.
Nigeria had assembled the elite military command, the Guards Brigade, along with some cultural troops. They trained at home for some time, spanning months. when they arrived at Edinburgh, it was applause all the way, with this cannon sound launching the commencement of the show. Country after country took turns to showcase their performance. For Trinidad and Tobago, it was as if the show has ended. When Nigeria emerged, they were greeted with a thunderous applause.
Music and colourful customs of Nigeria. With the military parade fused with Nigerian unity dance, it depicted the unity and bond of the Nigerian military and civilian population, irrespective of ethnic or religious affiliation. Then came Nigeria's star of the moment.
This show has been playing in front of Edinburgh Castle now for 69 years. Each year we invite perhaps 6 or 8 international acts to play with us, and this has now been going for all of these years. The show has been sold out for the last 21 consecutive seasons. 200,000 people will sit in the great stands and listen to fine Scottish music and culture from around the world for about 100 wonderful minutes. For this year, we have Nigeria, of course, for the first time. It was my great pleasure to visit this wonderful country with its huge population, great history, and magnificent culture. I visited Abuja in the spring. It was extremely hot, much hotter than it is here in Scotland. And I listened to a great band from the Guards Brigade. I watched the silent drill platoon, and I watched the dancing of the Nigerian Cultural Ensemble. At that time, I described myself as having found a gold mine, so good was the performance.
This year, the Nigerian contingent has been a real favourite amongst some of the audience, and they've put on a really great performance for all of the audience to see.
They've brought joy, smiles, hard work. We've practiced a long time together at Redford to get the act just right. I think their professionalism and their work ethic was amazing. The drill team particularly have worked incredibly hard, and I think the cultural ensemble bring the real joy of a Nigerian wedding, and I think it really lifts the show and adds a lot of volume and a lot of fun.
The Nigerian team has made us very proud, and everybody's talking about that, about them in Edinburgh right now and all over the world. The production reflects the fact that we can work as a team if we are committed to turn things around in our country, and that is what we are all looking forward to. That we should work, whether the military, the civilians, everybody, we should work together as a team to turn our country around. So I'm so glad that we participated in this event this year, and it is our hope that one day we'll have something similar back home.
I want to believe that if we are able to have good planning, we should be able to have a program like this. That and most of the areas which I believe we will develop is in the issue of culture. If we are able to do that, we'll be able to attract tourism. And once you have tourism, you are talking about revenue generation.
The executive director of the military tattoo took special time to visit the Nigerian camp.
The rolling man is very unusual everywhere in the world. You will not find a man like this. He rolls every night down the road from Edinburgh Castle, and he has no damage to his face. We are all very impressed by this. He's a very, very flexible man. He's the only rolling man in the world. Wonderful.
Yes, indeed. Nigeria know the carry last. The rolling man there repping Nigeria. When some people are faced with the decision to step out of their comfort zone, they either veer into the path of defeat or take the high road of courage. Well, here's the story of Juliet Ibrahim, who survived 3 civil wars amongst other life-changing challenges. The good news is she has success stories to cap the entire experience. Serafino Okon tells us this heart-touching story of Juliet Ibrahim and her reasons for celebrating a toast to life.
The night, from all indications, was not just about taking perfect pictures and listening to good music. It was a special night carved out in the history books to celebrate a strong woman who, against all odds, with sheer determination and resilience, pulled through 3 civil wars in Liberia, Lebanon, Ivory Coast and Ghana, amongst other hurdles of life, to rise to the feats she has achieved today in the world of entertainment. As readers took their turns in eulogizing the celebrant, they all seemed to be on the same page in one language.